Calvary Baptist Military Church on the bulletin here this morning. All this military. But we're glad he's here this morning. It's good to see you, Brother Gary. We love you, buddy. Yep, sure enough.
That's sweet.
Give me a medallion this morning.
Now, I got this handkerchief here because I might get the squall in here. Let me tell you how I ended up here. I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a motor home and I need to get some generator work done on it. And I asked around, they said, man, there's an old crusty guy up there, you know, always got a beard, you know. He don't look very good, but man, can he fix a generator? And I'm talking about Mike. Mike's a great guy. His father served in the military. He went in the Navy, served 4 years, got out. They put locks on trash cans so he couldn't get anything to eat, so he came back in the Army. And so I went over to his shop and he told him what I needed, and we got to talking. He said, you know something? He says, my daddy was a paratrooper. And so we got to talking about it. Well, his dad served in the same unit that my uncle did in Germany, the 509th Airborne. I think they called them combat regimental teams back then. And he says, you know something? He says, my dad's buried over in Orlando. And because he had been in the Navy, when you got out, for some of y'all that don't understand the military, you have a form that's called DD 214. That's the Department of Defense. And when you re-enlist or when you get out of the service or you retire, you get one of those. It's got everything that you did in the Army and all your medals and so forth and so on. And of course, Mike didn't know that much when his father passed away about how to get a burial detail and all this. Well, they went to the ceremony. Next thing you know, here come these Navy guys. Now, he spent 4 years in the Navy. And Mike, how many years in the Army? 20 something?
He's 23, 24.
So these Navy guys come. Well, he wasn't expecting that. He was expecting some Army guys, some paratroopers, all right, with jump boots on. So we got to talking. He said, you know something? All the time I was sitting there, he said, my daddy's up there looking at me, turning over in heaven or in his grave, turning over in the grave. And he was a paratrooper, and he's getting married by some. I ain't picking on the Navy now.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
He said, he got married. He got buried by the Navy. He said he'd be turning over in the grave. You know. So we got to talking about that, and I said, I'll tell you what. I said, if you want to do a ceremony, I said, I'll see if I can get some Rangers from Fort Stewart to come down here, because I have a friend of mine that used to be the regimental sergeant major for the Ranger Regiment. All right. So I called up there and they said, oh, they're all deployed, we can't do it, you know. Well, they have a Special Forces Reserve Unit, not Reserve Unit, National Guard unit up at Camp Blandon up in Jacksonville. So I called up there and talked to the Sergeant Major. And he said, well, you got to talk to the Sergeant, I talked to the commander initially. He said, you got to talk to the Sergeant Major. Now, y'all all know in all services, you know, the officers think they run things, but they don't. But as a sergeant major or first sergeant, when the officers come in, sergeant major, I'm going to do this, and yes sir, you go ahead and do it, right? And when he leaves, he goes back into office and signs papers, okay? And is that true? Oh, you know that. So anyhow, we got a team leader, a Special Forces team leader, that'd been to Iraq and Afghanistan about 5 or 6 times. They couldn't give us a full detail. I got the National Guard, the Florida National Guard, to come for the firing party. And then there was a paratrooper with the bugle. So we all met over in Orlando and had this ceremony. And I'm gonna tell you, I never seen a grown man cry like Mike did.
That's right.
It tore me up. And for him his dad to get the barrel that his dad wanted, not that he disrespected the Navy, but you know, everybody, sometimes there's people that jump, we call it jump ship. I'm in the Navy, I'm going to go in the Army. I was in the Air Force, and there's a lot of people that do that, all right? But you know, I don't care what service you're in. Everybody thinks, well, you know, the Green Berets and Special Forces and the infantry, You cannot do your job in the military if there's not somebody who's supporting you.
Yes, amen.
There's cooks and mechanics,
Exactly.
and there's chaplains and everything. And their job is just important as our job.
Right.
And I'm not gonna tell you what this acronym stands for, but you can tell after you get outside of these here. We used to call the people who were support people RIMPs, and I'm not gonna tell you what that means. But you know, I never appreciated the support people until after I had been in the Army about 20 years. Well, actually, I was in the Army 18 years, and I was always in Special Forces. I was always in the Special Forces 18. And the Sergeant Major asked me to be the first sergeant of the support company. We called it headquarters and headquarters company. Well, that's where all the support people were. Well, I didn't appreciate them until I became the first sergeant, and now I'm in charge of them. And they would, I'll just give you an example, a truck driver. A team would want to have a truck to go out to training. Well, that truck driver had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go get the deuce and a half for the truck, fill it up with gas and get it all squared away, and at 6 o'clock be standing outside for the team to get on the vehicle to go out to training. And it took them an hour, hour and a half to get out to the field to do the training. And then they'd come back at 8 or 9 o'clock. And of course, as soon as they got off the truck, the team was left. Well, that poor truck driver, he or she, but at this particular time it was a he had to go and wash the truck and fill it up. So he didn't get to bed till 12 o'clock. So there's always somebody in the background that's helping. Okay. Now, I saw all the pictures of all the veterans in here, and that's what I told them. I'm from South Carolina. We don't call them ministers. We call them preachers. I guess and I called him a preacher. And I looked at it, it says Calvary Baptist. I said they ought to be named this the Calvary Military Baptist Church. And he told me, you know, I always tell you when I get invited to be a guest speaker and not talk to them. They said the best speech is a short speech, okay? Do you know if you ever get up here? I don't know, I've got a lot of black friends and I've been to a lot of black churches. Well, about 3 o'clock, I said, man, it's about time for me to go home, because black people, they stay in church for about 3 hours.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly right.
And there ain't nothing wrong with that,
Exactly right.
But anyhow, my father's Filipino, and he was a Filipino scout in World War II. And after the war, he was in the American Army. He came to Fort Benning, Georgia. And my uncle was a major at Fort Benning, was a captain at Fort Benning. And I don't know what course they went to, but they went through a course together. Now, on my mother's side, they're rednecks from Alabama, okay? So how you can figure out a Filipino and a redneck and get married and end up with something like me, I don't know. All right, so if I keep my mouth shut, I can pass for anything. Right? When I open this mouth, I go, where the heck are you from?
Oh, boy.
But anyhow, my mother and father divorced when I was 13 years old. And I was raised in the church. And as I remember, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I really don't think at that age you really understand. You go to church all the time. Now, because I was the pastor's grandson, every time the doors open, I was in church.
Amen.
All right. I don't know if y'all have this, but the Baptist church we had what they call the Royal Ambassadors. They still have that.
They still do, but we
Yeah,
don't.
okay, yeah.
I know what it is.
Well, I was in the Royal Ambassadors. Okay. So I was saved. At least I thought I was. Got baptized. My granddaddy baptized me, and then when I went in the military, from South Carolina, and I was 19 years old. I went to basic training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and went to infantry IT at Fort Gordon, Georgia. I went to jump school, and I was following my uncle. My youngest uncle had been in Germany in the 509th Airborne, the 101st, and then he was in the 173rd, so I followed him over there. He was my hero. I wanted to be a paratrooper. And so I went there and served in the same unit. He was in 4th Battalion of 503rd Infantry, 173rd Airborne Brigade, and I was 2nd Battalion. Right? Well, from that time, I served 28 years in the Army. And all the 20 years that I was in the Army, I didn't follow God. All right? It was strange that because what they call it, the flesh, I was doing all the fleshy stuff. okay? Doing everything that you ain't supposed to do, all right? So, I spent 28 years in the Army, and then I got out. I did contract work in Afghanistan and Iraq. I worked for Blackwater, who's a security company, and went over in Africa and worked for Exxon and Chevron, training guards for their particular places. And then I came here. I spent 6 years in Panama, so my Spanish is very good. Mm-hmm. Well, good enough that my wife, who's Puerto Rican, thought I was a Puerto Rican. Okay? So I learned how to dance and all that. So I met her in Melbourne. She's actually from New Jersey. She's been here for about 35 years. And she had just recently gotten divorced. Well, I went to this Latin dance in Melbourne. So I saw her and I said, man, she looks good. I was chasing women. I was never married in the Army. And I used to go to these functions all the time where the sergeant major, when I was in Okinawa, it was a inter-service function. So we'd have Air Force and Marines and everybody. And I'd be sitting there by myself. And those fellows would bring their wives, and the wives would say, Sergeant Major, where's your wife? I said, I don't have one. Where is she? I said, I'm not married. You never been married? No, I haven't. She says, why not? I said, well, the Army issued me everything I needed. If the Army wanted me to have a wife, they'd issue me. Well, that didn't go over very big with those wives. They wouldn't even talk to me the next time we had a function.
Oh,
right?
boy.
So anyhow, I got out of the Army and then came here, and I was chasing my wife, and I asked her to dance. I said in Spanish, "Qué bailar? Would you like to dance?" She said, "Sí." So I'm out there and I'm doing my thing with her. She asked me in Spanish. She said, "Es usted puertorriqueño?" She said, "Are you Puerto Rican?" I said, "Esta noche sí." I said, "I am tonight." So I didn't see her. I saw her a couple times. She wouldn't even talk to me. She had recently gotten divorced and she had two kids. Right? And we started dating and everything. And then my brother died. Now my brother had been saved, I think, like when he was 13 or 14 years old. And he followed God. All right. Well, he passed away 3 months shy of his 50th birthday. And he just tore me up because we were really close. So I went up to the funeral up in Augusta, Georgia. And after that, after everything settled down, I stayed there about 3 days with my sister-in-law. And she said, "Will you help me with the estate?" I said, "Sure." And she came in one day. She gave me his Bible. And I opened that Bible. There was all this notes in it. You know, I always thought that, man, you better not touch the Bible. You know, the Bible is a piece of paper.
Yeah.
The Word is what it is. Of course, it took me a long time to understand that, all right? And this is what she said. She said, "Gary, your brother always wanted you to come back to the Lord."
Oh.
Wow. And she said, "Give me this Bible. You know who Dr. Stanley is?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She has Dr. Stanley sends you a study guide. Every month I get one of those. Plus I have an app on my phone. And I read it all the time. I read it every night. I read it. But I'm getting better. But she told me, she said, in order to know the Lord, you have to spend time with the Lord. And she said, "You know how you do that?" She said, "God speaks to you through the Scripture." So I'm still, even though I was raised in the Baptist church and everything, I am still a layman when it comes to this. The Bible is very hard to read, but the reason I like Dr. Stanley is because I've even got the Bible. And he, at the bottom of the page, it's the regular Bible. I forget what King James Version, but at the bottom, he explains certain scriptures to you. You know, because, you know, the Bible is here, thou, and there, and all that. Well, I'm a country boy here. You know, I can't hardly even speak English. All right? But I came back to the Lord. We go to the Calvary Chapel in Melbourne, Florida. They got one in Vieira. We got 3 grandkids. Now, they're not my blood, but I treat them just like my blood. And all 3 of them is in the church. And they go to granddaughter, who's 9 years old, last year, we have a Christmas service. I'm sure y'all have a Christmas Eve service. And so we were sitting there, and the preacher says, all right, who wants to come to the front and get the gift? Well, she had been in the nursery, and she calls it the academy now since she's 8 years old. And she turned to my wife, she says, she calls her abuela, which is Spanish for grandmother.
Oh.
And my wife said, well, when she gets born, she's going to call you abuelo, grandpa. I said, no, she's not. I said, I'm from South Carolina. She's going to call me Pawpaw. Calls me Pawpaw, calls her, and she said, my wife said, you sure? I said, what are you talking about? She said, I want to go get the gift. So I said, come here, sit down. I said, tell me about it. She went right down what you did. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. She just went there. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't go to church with us on Sunday, sometimes we go on Saturday night, there's a fight. Okay? Now, what I've tried to do is that all the buddies that I have from the military, there's only like 3 or 4 of them that follow the Lord. So what I've been trying to do is when I go see them or when I go to these military reunions, I try to talk to them about God. And I've got really beat up about them because they used to be my buddies, and we all drank and acted a fool and all that stuff, you know. And I don't know why. I spent 2 tours in Vietnam. I got wounded the first time. You know, if I had got killed over there, my feet would be on fire right now, okay? But, you know, through the grace of God, God knows everything.
Yeah.
All right? And he's got a purpose for us. So what I try to do now is talk to my buddies, and, you know, you can't beat them up. Our preacher said, you know, you can't say, all right, you know, you're going to die, go to hell. All right? You better get hurried. You can't scare people and do it. They need to be willingly to give their life for the Lord. And that's the way it's going to be. So I've got a couple of people I'm still beating up on. When I say beating, I don't beat them up, but it's planting the seed. Planting the seed. This is how I plant the seed. I got my little card here. And I just had this done about a couple of months ago. And on the back, in the middle, it says, Jesus saves. And who was the first guy? First, what's your name, sir?
Jim.
Tim.
Jim.
Tim read this. He said, John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, that one lay down one's life for his friends. You know, well, that's really good for military people, but that's for all people. And then, of course, John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. So I tell everybody this. Some of my friends, they say, well, you got religion. No, I said, well, I had religion, but it was in my back pocket. Yeah. Okay? And I'm not ashamed to tell people. And, you know, that phrase Christian, everybody says that. All right? Do you believe? So I tell people I'm a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay?
That's right.
And I'm still a layman. I appreciate y'all letting me cry on your shoulder.
Oh.
And preacher, God bless you and what you do for the church. If everybody here goes back and brings somebody to church, like the other one said, this place will be filled up.
Exactly. Amen.